Welcome to the wonderful Seagulls podcast, where we explore the loud, clever, chaotic world of urban gulls. Before we dive into today's gull story, please like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more urban wildlife, gull behavior, and neighborhood drama. Okay, so today we are going to rethink absolutely everything you thought you knew about those neighborhood gulls hanging out on your roof. Right, let's get into it. If you've ever spent a summer afternoon near the coast, or honestly just been sitting in your car at a supermarket parking lot, you've definitely heard them. To our human ears, a flock of gulls sounds like total, absolute chaos. Just this giant wall of random, demanding squawks, right? But what if I told you that every single sound hitting your ears is actually part of a highly structured evolutionary tool that took millions of years to perfect? We are so quick to write off gulls as just noisy scavengers. But the truth is, their communication system is mind-blowingly sophisticated. To really appreciate gull language, we first have to talk about how they actually get it. And this points to a massive divide in the bird world. You see, parrots, songbirds, hummingbirds, they're what we call vocal learners. They literally have to learn their songs by listening to the adults around them. But gulls are what scientists call vocal non-learners. They completely lack the specialized brain pathways for learning sounds. Instead, their incredibly complex language is genetically hardwired right into their DNA. A gull doesn't need a teacher. It hatches with a prehistoric, genetically coded dictionary already fully loaded in its brain. And they use that internal dictionary to belt out their most famous sound, the long call. Now, this isn't just a simple noise. It is a full-blown physical performance. It kicks off with these introductory notes, which can actually change a bit depending on how hyped up the gull is. Then come the squeals, these really high-frequency, super loud shouts that happen while the gull physically bows its head all the way down and then whips it backwards. Finally, you get the terminal series, which is a very stable, species-specific sound they make while standing in this stretched-out, angled posture. They are quite literally using their entire bodies to project their identity and claim their turf. Now, exactly how that long call sounds depends a ton on the physical build of the bird. Take the herring gull, for example. Researchers have found some intense vocal differences between the sexes here. The males physically have significantly longer windpipes or tracheas and much larger vibrating membranes in their vocal organs than the females do. It's just basic acoustic physics, really. A longer, bigger instrument is going to produce a different, much more resonant sound. So during those exaggerated, posture-heavy courtship calls, males and females end up sounding distinctly different to one another. But here is where it gets super interesting. There's a fascinating exception to this rule. When a predator suddenly shows up and a herring gull has to fire off a rapid, unscripted alarm call, all those deep structural differences between the males and females just completely vanish. The alarm calls show literally zero acoustic differences between the sexes. Why is that? Well, because an alarm call doesn't rely on those extreme, showy postures that stretch the vocal tract. When your immediate survival is on the line, showing off whether you're a male or female takes a back seat to just sounding the alarm as fast as possible. So the takeaway here is that context shapes the sound. And nowhere, I mean nowhere, is context more critical than in the dead center of a massive, chaotic gull colony. Just picture it. Thousands of birds squawking, fighting, flying around, and guarding these tiny little patches of dirt. Now, imagine you're a parent gull coming back from the ocean with dinner. How on earth are you supposed to find your specific chick in that moving sea of noise? Well, the answer depends entirely on how that particular species raises its kids. It's basically a tale of two completely different survival strategies. You have the black-headed gull, which is a total homebody. Its chicks stay bound to the nest for the first 10 days of life. Because the parents can just use visual landmarks to find the nest, they actually delay vocal recognition until the chick is about 5 days old. This stops a horrible mix-up where a parent might accidentally misidentify and kick out its own chick. But then look at the slender-billed gull. Their chicks leave the nest almost instantly and join these massive roaming daycares called creches. There are no landmarks, so these parents and chicks have to lock into each other's exact vocal signatures almost immediately, usually within 1 to 3 days of hatching. Okay, but how do you actually hear your specific kid in a giant creche full of thousands of screaming babies? The slender-billed gull has evolved what I can only describe as a bioacoustic superpower, a two-voice system. Because birds have this unique vocal organ called a syrinx, which has two independent sets of membranes, the slender-billed gull can produce two entirely different frequencies at the exact same time. It's literally like having two separate voices singing two completely different songs simultaneously. This creates a really complex acoustic beat pattern, this unique, rich acoustic barcode that cuts right through all the background noise and physical chaos of the colony. And the chicks? They are incredibly picky listeners. A chick isn't just going to run up to any adult that squawks. It uses a ridiculously strict auditory filter. Playback experiments with black-headed gull chicks have shown that for a chick to recognize its parent, the call has to have clear frequency modulation. If the pitch is off by even a tiny 50 hertz, the chick just completely ignores it. And to make sure it's not just some random background noise, the chick demands high redundancy, meaning it will not react unless it hears at least 4 syllables in a row. They are active, precision-focused listeners. And getting this right is literally a matter of life and death. Just look at the laughing gull chick. When it hears the familiar, perfectly filtered call of its own parent, it runs toward the sound, gets active, and starts begging for food. But what happens when it hears the call of an unfamiliar adult gull? It immediately switches into defense mode. It actively hides, turns away, and crouches down in total silence. In a tightly packed colony, adult neighbors can be incredibly aggressive, so knowing instantly who to run to and who to hide from is absolutely vital for survival. Which brings us to a truly fascinating question. If this vocal recognition is so critically important, and if we know gulls are genetically hardwired to do it, when does a gull actually start communicating? Just take a guess. Do you think it's day 1? Hour 1? Incredibly, it happens before they even hatch. Researchers studying yellow-legged gulls uncovered an actual embryonic warning system. If an adult outside sounds an alarm call, an embryo still sealed inside the egg will hear it. By day 2 of the experiment, that exposed embryo starts actively vibrating its own eggshell. And by day 3, because the eggs are all touching each other in the nest, those vibrations transfer to a sibling in a neighboring egg who never even heard the original alarm. They are literally vibrating warning signals to their unborn siblings. There's no way that isn't the coolest thing you've heard all day. And the crazy thing is, this isn't just some weird biological party trick. It translates directly to real-world survival. The second they hatch, chicks that were exposed to these prenatal alarms, either directly hearing it or just feeling the shell vibrations from their sibling, they crouch down significantly faster when they hear an adult alarm call. This prenatal listening directly programs their predator avoidance. Before they have even opened their eyes to see the world, they have already learned how to survive in it. So we've established that these calls are innate, they're hardwired, and they're laser precise. But that zooms us out to a macro-level question. Do gulls that live thousands of miles apart have regional accents, sort of like humans do? Well, remember what we said earlier. Gulls are vocal non-learners. They don't have cultural dialects that get passed down by teaching. So if their calls sound different from one region to another, we aren't looking at a learned accent, we are actually watching genetic speciation happening in real time. A perfect textbook example of this is the black-legged kittiwake, a stunning gull that breeds on the sides of sheer ocean cliffs. Researchers compared a population living on the Atlantic side, on Hornoya Island in Norway, to a Pacific population all the way over on Middleton Island in Alaska. And they found some stark acoustic differences. The Atlantic kittiwakes have highly pronounced vocal differences between the males and females, but thousands of miles away, the Pacific kittiwakes have extremely weak, barely detectable differences between the sexes. Because of that massive geographic isolation, genetic drift is literally pulling these two populations apart, vocally. And speaking of kittiwakes, they also completely shatter a massive rule of acoustics. In pretty much the entire bird world, larger birds produce deeper, lower frequency sounds. It's just the physics of size. But kittiwakes have evolved a wild exception, reversed vocal dimorphism. In this species, the physically smaller females actually produce long calls with a significantly lower fundamental pitch than the bigger males. Having this surprisingly deep female voice lets mates instantly figure out who is who when they are trying to land on those impossibly narrow, crowded cliff ledges. But across all these different species, from the cliff-dwelling kittiwakes to the herring gulls in the parking lot, one thing remains remarkably, mathematically constant: the rhythm. Gull calls aggressively conserve a strict tempo, almost always falling right between 4 and 9 syllables per second. And why that exact speed? Because that specific tempo perfectly matches the theta and delta brainwave oscillations in the listening bird's brain. The rhythm of the call literally syncs up with the brainwaves of the listener so the signal is effortlessly decoded. It's like biological Bluetooth pairing. It's just beautifully elegant engineering. In fact, this bioacoustic engineering is so deeply tied to their genetics that it's currently rewriting our science textbooks. Historically, scientists just threw almost all gulls into one massive genus called Loris.
But modern DNA sequencing has proven that was completely wrong. And the amazing part is, the bird's acoustics match the new DNA data perfectly. For instance, species that have highly unusual nasal calls that totally lack that classic three-part structure, like the laughing gull, have now been correctly moved into their own resurrected genus, Leucophuse. The sound they were making was telling us the truth about their DNA all along. Ultimately, the vocal communication system of these birds isn't just random noise. As the research sums it up, it's a highly sophisticated, evolutionary dynamic network. It is shaped by the laws of physics, the constraints of their harsh environments, and exactly how and where they raise their chicks. From vibrating eggshells communicating danger to two-voiced acoustic barcodes cutting through the noise of a colony, they are communicating on a level that is deeply complex and honestly profoundly beautiful.
So the next time you hear a gull squawking over a plate of chips or circling above the beach, I really hope you hear it a little bit differently. You aren't just listening to chaos. You are listening to millions of years of genetic bioacoustic engineering playing out right in front of you. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please like the video and subscribe for more gull stories, urban wildlife, and the ongoing adventures of gulls.